On this week's Gridiron Report, we have the Detroit Lions getting absolutely pants to start the year. The Detroit Tigers' magic number gets better, even though dropping a series to the White Sox. And we wrap up with some grit of the week, so let's get into it.
In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim, from the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the grit iron report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire, grit iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud, champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The grit iron report, where the stories are.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions vs. All Detroit sports podcast presented by Mic Drop Studios. Today is Wednesday, September 10th, and the Lions were absolutely publicly humiliated on live TV. I mean, for weeks, we were begging for football, and then it came, and I kind of was just hoping we could go right back into the offseason. This was pretty much the worst possible way for us to start the regular season. Like, everything that could have gone wrong outside of like injuries, like thank God we kind of made it out of the game healthy, and we'll get into our review in a second. But outside of injuries, pretty much just as bad as it could possibly have gone, right?
Yeah, this one fucking sucked. This was, I mean, from the very start of the game, we'll break down the entire game, but what really sucked for me was, we heard about it from the media for weeks and months that, the narrative was, can the Lions win without Ben Johnson? Can the Lions win? Will they take a step back with this, revamped or new offensive line, a lot of new pieces, brand new play callers on offense and defense? And really, I could see obviously where the media was going, but also I'm like, well, they're trying to create a narrative out of nothing. We'll be fine. I was always like, even when we, the Lions didn't necessarily go out and, fill holes, I'm like, well, they'll be fine. They have Dan Campbell. They have a ton of talent. And I kind of played that off. I'm like, the media is literally just spinning whatever spin zones they want. And lo and behold, well, they were exactly right. In week one, I don't want this to be just some huge knee-jerk reaction. This was 1 week in a very long NFL season, but for 1 week, the media was absolutely right. The Lions got pantsed. They got dicked down. It was horrendous from start to finish. And yeah, man, I'm pretty pissed. I was pissed on Sunday. I'm still pissed now as we're recording on Tuesday. Like, they need to bounce back, and they need to bounce back in a big way.
If I had to read one more time an article that just talks about, like you just mentioned, like, oh, well, the Lions are missing two coordinators. It's going to be really hard, all that turnover. And like you said, it's just kind of the narrative of this team. So I don't think ill to them about writing about it. But if I had to read that one more time, I was going to throw up. And then they did exactly that. The haters found us on TikTok and Twitter. All the Packers fans found us. Shout out to all them who called us being wrong. And they were honestly right. So the Lions...
Shout out to the haters. The haters were right on this one.
The haters were right on this one. Hand up. The Lions lose to the Packers 27-13. So let's go through our overall thoughts, and then we'll break down the offense and the defense. So just real quick, my overall thoughts, just watching this game, it made me hate certain people and certain things about football. That was like a really disappointing outcome for me. Like, I love Frank Ragnow. Frank was one of my favorite draft picks. He was like just a quiet draft pick. We talked about it when he retired, that like it kind of was out of nowhere, but it was a perfect draft pick. Frank just did everything right. And I came out of this game being really, really mad with Frank, and I didn't want to be because I love Frank, but we were so decimated up the middle, and by Frank retiring late in the season without digging all that back up again, I found myself being mad at him because we continuously got blown up on the offensive line and we're constantly out of position and guys were missing their cues. So I found myself mad at Frank Ragnow, and I also found myself mad at Brad Holmes. And I like Brad Holmes. I think Brad Holmes took us out, from the depths of hell. And while each year I think people are starting to find more and more things that they kind of disagree with the way he's doing things, overall, I think people still really, really like Brad Holmes here in Detroit. And I found myself hating Brad Holmes after this game too, because just like we've talked all offseason, like we knew these weren't issues that like were out of nowhere. Like a guy went down with an injury and we're like, well, shit, now we're suddenly so weak at this position. What are we going to do? These were issues that we knew we were going to have. And yet they still decided to go with their next man up, their our guys versus your guys mentality, rather than go out and get guys and get 4 to 5 positions and stuff like that. So it's like we knew the issues we were having. And so I found myself leaving this game just like with a hatred. I felt like I should have loved this team, and I hate having to do that, but I came away with a hatred.
Yeah, you definitely hate losing like this. I mean, just it was humiliating. I mean, this game was never close. Even though you look at the final score, like, oh, a couple possessions, it was way worse than that. I mean, the Lions were literally never in the game. And yeah, I don't know. To your point, okay, so let's just take that with a grain of salt. That Brad Holmes point, that Brad Holmes has taken this team to heights that they hadn't seen since the '90s. Like we're talking like a generation almost. Multiple playoff wins. So everything that he's done, what Dan Campbell has done, like there can't just be an asterisk on it because they came out and they were flat and they got their asses kicked by their arch rival. With that being said, though, I mean things need to change. I think from an execution standpoint, like I think that they still have talent on that offensive line. It's not like from a talent perspective they've gone from a top 3 unit in the league to like bottom third. Like they still on paper should be able to run the ball. So the fact that they couldn't on Sunday, I don't think that that's just going to be the entire season. I think maybe they'll struggle a little bit, but I don't see them struggling as much. I think it's almost like you can't get worse. Like, we look at, Monty, 2.3 yards per carry, Gibbs, 2.1 yards per carry. I mean, the amount of times that they were met, like at the line of scrimmage or in the backfield was just appalling on Sunday. Like it was really bad. Like I think I've talked about this before, but when the Lions were on their own 1 yard line, and I think it was Tate Rutledge who quite literally did not block the A gap. Like there's a defensive tackle who's about to tackle your running back, and instead like you're going to the second depth to go block a linebacker. Like these things, they almost are so weird that they don't even make sense. And it's like, okay, I think that they can clean this up. Like that's a mistake that you might see like a 7th grader do. Like I don't think that's going to be the norm for the rest of the season. So I don't want to like hit the panic button too much, but everything that I saw on Sunday, quite literally everything I saw on Sunday, I hated. So yeah, I don't like it here.
I agree. Like I said, I hated the result. It just made me hate certain people that I don't want to hate. So like I didn't like that feeling. But let's break down. You kind of just dove into let's break down the offense. So you mentioned the play call. I didn't like the play call. It's obviously it was going to be different. We had, whether you like it or not, whether you like him or not, we had one of the best play callers in the NFL. Some might even argue NFL history. We had a kind of a historic offense in Ben Johnson. So like there was definitely going to be a step down, right? That was inevitable. There's no getting around that. I thought Johnny Morton was going to be better. I didn't like his play call really at all. But I think that also kind of came down to the way the offensive line was playing. And like you just mentioned, the lack of a running game. I think that you just weren't able to get that going, and that just kind of shrunk the play call. So I don't think Johnny Morton deserves all the hate for that. The other thing, so you mentioned we had 3.8 yards per play. It's the second fewest in the Dan Campbell era. But at the same time, that might just be what Johnny Morton is. So if you look at his numbers, his time in Denver, which if you look back last year, Bo Nix had a really great year in his young career in Denver. Like Johnny Morton had a lot to do with that. But if you look at those numbers, during his time with the Broncos, 55.9% of all their receiving yards came after the catch. So it's just kind of his play call, his play strategy.
I think that's more having Bo Nix, though. That's more an indictment of having a rookie quarterback and knowing like there's only so much you can do with a rookie quarterback.
That's
not the case in this offense.
But I saw a lot of that from Jared Goff. I saw a lot of checkdowns, and that could be the offensive line just not having that play action. And Jared Goff thrives in play action. Like that's where he is the best. That's what they ran the most last year. It's play actions. That's where he is like his bread and butter. You get the play action going, you get the running game going, then you can take off the top. I get that. And it wasn't working yesterday. So maybe that was the reason why there was so many checkdowns. But our average depth of completion was, I think, 4.5 or something like that, which is just abysmal. So there was really just nothing going. So I think it both definitely deserve a little bit of the detriment there, a little bit of the hate there from the Johnny Morton play call and just the overall performance. And they definitely like fed into each other.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it was the pressure. I mean, Goff looked off the entire night. I mean, he was getting pressured on like seemingly every single drop back. So yeah, again, more of an indictment on the offensive line. I think that the offensive line played really, really bad. But I mean, sometimes Goff did have time, and it seemed like our receivers just were not getting open. So I don't know. Again, small sample size, one game. They were playing from behind a lot, but is it a scheme issue? Like it seemed like Ben Johnson was incredible at scheming his wide receivers open, and they could do it on every play. So I don't know. I'm not going to say that this is all on Johnny Morton. I do think, to your point, the Lions offense thrives on play action when they can run the ball. So when you can't run the ball, it's kind of a domino effect. And I think we did see that on Sunday. Like the entire offense struggled from top to bottom. So I don't know, man. I'm not going to just call out Johnny Morton. Again, it's one game. It was a very difficult start to the season. We talked about it being maybe the hardest start of the season that you could possibly have going to Green Bay, your rival. It's a tough place to play. And huge credit to the Packers. Like they had a game plan. Their defense just completely shut the Lions down. And then, I mean, we'll jump into the other side of the ball in a bit, but I want to say their offense looked awesome and our defense was horrendous.
Yeah, so you mentioned the time that Jared Goff actually had, and that's why this is so interesting. It's actually like your eyes tell you that, as you mentioned, like it's much worse than the score, right? The eyes told you we got whipped up and down the field, the Packers destroyed us. But then you look at the numbers, would you be surprised if I told you that Jared Goff had the third longest release time in the NFL on Sunday? He had the third most time to release his passes, and it was also one of the longest averages compared to last season as well. So like as much as the offensive line was struggling, he did have some good time back there to go through his reads. So that's why it's even more confounding. Like, where was the disconnect? What was going on? And Dan Campbell, after the game in his presser, he mentioned that a bunch of his guys that just kind of were having rookie mistakes. He said a lot of them were having issues where like Jared would go to the line and he would check out of a play or kill a play, and some offensive linemen just wouldn't hear him, and some were. So shout out to the Packers fans, but like that stuff can't happen. You can't have guys at the offensive line truly thinking you're running different plays or just not hearing the kills or the play checking, stuff like that. But
how does that happen though? How on earth does that happen? I mean, someone has to be held accountable then, because this is the same offensive line coach, Hank Fraley, which we love, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are mostly the same guys on the offensive line. Of course, there's one rookie, but I mean, Mahogany is moving positions, but he's still the same guy that was there last year for parts of the season. I mean, you still have the same tackles. Like, I don't understand how. I mean, and they've played in probably much louder environments than that. Like, I don't get how that happens. That you just make those mental mistakes. Like,
I know, and even Matt LaFleur, the Packers head coach, after the game said in his press conference, he called out all the Packers fans that sold their tickets to the Lions fans, basically insinuating that like Lions fans were there and they were loud and we were on our way to taking over the stadium like we normally do. So I agree with you. We definitely have played in louder stadiums. It just was a combination of all the guys just not being ready, whether that's we need to start doing, not being the Bengals and start playing in the preseason. If you look at the numbers for Dan Campbell in his era in Detroit, during his first 4 games of each year, he is 7-11. So like it seems that he always kind of struggles to get out the gate. So maybe they need to review their preseason kind of strategy. But PFF wise, so Graham Glasgow led the way for the worst PFF performances for the Lions with a 43.2. Panay and Christian Mahogany were tied for 5th with 54.6. So like even all-pro best offensive lineman in the NFL, Panay was constantly being beat. So I think it just kind of was all around. I don't know if the boys they weren't prepared. They're just still trying to gel. All around, it was not good. But then you look at some numbers, like if we want to be a little bit more optimistic, the Lions were in scoring position 4 times. I'm still talking offense here. They were in scoring position 4 different times. So like they did move the ball. They obviously were just 1 for 4 in those 4 red zone opportunities. And say what you want, I'm sure we'll get to that touchdown later. That was a little bit in garbage time, and I don't know if the Packers really even cared. Kind of just seemed like the game was over. We kind of were asking ourselves why our starters were even in at that point. So like say what you want, but like we were in the red zone and had offensive opportunities 4 different times. We just didn't convert. You convert on 1, even 2 of those. It's a different game. So like, it was a weird game. The eye test told you that it was a shitty game, but some of the numbers make you think it really wasn't. A really tough one.
Yeah. I think they especially in the first half, when you're you're getting your ass kicked and you're settling for field goals. It's a recipe for disaster. Yeah, I mean they settled down. I think offense and defense settled down in the second half, but it was at that point it was insurmountable, and then you give up that late score, and then the game's over. So there's just very little margin for error when you're already settling for field goals. You're on the road. You're playing a really good team. So yeah, I mean it wasn't all terrible, but like overall, yeah, it just wasn't great at all.
Yeah. So you want to jump over to the defensive side? Kick us off for your thoughts over there.
Yeah. So defense. I mean, the first 2 drives, I think the Packers came away with 10 points. And I was thinking to myself, and I probably put it in our chat, that just shades of the Baltimore Ravens game circa like 2023 where, Ravens got the ball first, score, we punt, they score again. Like it kind of seemed like that. Now, granted, the defense, they definitely settled down and they didn't play horrible, I don't think. Especially in the second half, they played well. But yeah, I mean, you look at Jordan Love. All credit to Jordan Love. Played a great game. Had some throws that he made that I just, you got to tip your hat to him. I just found myself saying, like, that's a hell of a throw. That touchdown throw he had in the first half, that, I mean, he's fitting it in there. And they're big time throws. So I thought Jordan Love played well, but when he completes his first 8 passes and the Lions secondary is just getting torn up and Terrion Arnold's getting torn up, I mean, you got to start scratching your head. Like, and I think some of it was definitely scheme. Like, it seemed like Terrion was on an island sometimes and he's getting cooked and there's no safety help. So I don't necessarily know how that happens. Also, I don't pretend to understand like the ins and outs of, NFL schemes. So yeah, I mean, Calvin Shepard, it was his first game as defensive coordinator, but I thought that there was just massive gaps in the secondary and they were just getting, I thought the run defense perfectly fine. And, the Packers, I never felt like we couldn't stop Josh Jacobs, but I certainly felt like we couldn't stop Love. They were just getting, whatever they wanted, chunk plays at will through the air. And that was really depressing to see.
Which is kind of the opposite of what we expected. Like, Josh Jacobs is a great running back. I have a ton of respect for him. I think their offensive line is really good. I don't really have that much respect for Jordan Love previously before this game as a quarterback. I don't really respect their receiving core that much. I don't think they're that great. So like, it was the opposite of like, we shut down the run, which is what we thought we needed to do to win this game, and then we turned Jordan Love into Tom Brady. I mean, that was my main takeaway as well. That Terrion Arnold was, I mean, there's no good way to put it. You can't sugarcoat it. He was terrible. They were, at one point, they were literally targeting him and going to whatever side of the field he was on and just targeting him and going after him. And then he went down in the second half with a groin injury. Really hard to say. I guess they're saying a groin injury is not that serious. They didn't confirm or commit to any sort of timeline. They said it wasn't that serious though. Could have just been like, I mean, he was just getting toasted, and I don't blame the guy for being like, I don't have it today. And so that was really disheartening. But I mean, you hit on it. The run defense was really good. Brian Branch and Anzalone led the Lions in PFF ratings, 87.7 and 81.1. Unfortunately, Reeder, and Davenport were all top 5 worst PFF performances. They were number 2, 3, and 4. Like I mentioned, Graham Glasgow was number 1. And we bring up PFF a lot on this show because I think it's a good way to just have an overall idea of how guys played. If you guys are new to the show or new to PFF is a bunch of different numbers and formulas that basically put together overall performance for how a player did. I will say that Aiden Hutchinson had a higher PFF rating than Micah Parsons, if that surprised you.
That is surprising. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know the ins and outs of PFF. Right. I trust them. I also take them with a grain of salt at times. I'm pretty sure you can like pay to boost numbers. At least you could. Maybe not anymore. But yeah. So I know those guys do a lot of really good work. But I also know that Hutch. Did he have a pressure in this game? Like I don't. Maybe he did, but it just. I don't know. It seemed like he was pretty much a non-factor. I think that in general, our defensive line. I mean, every time that Love dropped back to pass, I'm thinking this guy has all day to throw, and so again. From that perspective, it's not all on our secondary. Like, you can't be expecting our, cornerbacks and our safeties to, be on an island or be covering a guy for 4 seconds, 5 seconds. Like, I mean, it's impossible. The wide receiver is going to win every time, no matter who you have in that wide receiver room. So I think that it's the culmination of the entire Lions defense. Everyone's to blame. It's not just the secondary. And I did think that defensive pass rush for the Lions, I thought it was shit. I thought it was awful. Not even one time was I like, we got some really good pressure. They got off the field on third down. They pressured Love. They, errant passes, interceptions. Nothing like that happened. He had all day, and he carved up the Lions defense. Yep.
So our numbers for the defensive line and getting to Jordan Love, we had 6 pressures, 0 sacks. And after the game, Dan Campbell said, paraphrasing here, we're going to keep tweaking the lineup to make sure to find the guys who can win their individual matchups. And all I had to say to that is, you don't have the guy. You can't just shuffle the chairs on the Titanic. This is what we've said all goddamn offseason. You don't have the horses. You can't just keep shuffling guys. You can't take Al-Quadi Mohammed and move him to tackle and take Tyleek Williams and move him to edge and think that's going to solve your problem. You don't have the horses. And so that was, like I said, that's why I kind of came away from this game so frustrated. Like I feel like I'm bashing my head into the wall, saying like, yeah, we're gonna keep tweaking our lineups and try and find the right combination. It's not a lock that you randomly find the right numbers and it suddenly works. It's about the talent, and you just don't have it. I've been just throwing these stats at you. Would it surprise you to know that Amon-Ra St. Brown, Craig Reynolds, and Jake Bates all had more tackles than Aiden Hutchinson?
Yeah, that's God.
How about
That just
that?
made me throw up in my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, and so Aiden, I'm sure you look back at it and they were triple teaming Aiden Hutchinson, and so I get that. But I mean, still, triple teaming, there's got to be a Jordan Love rollout that like you can be there and get at least one tackle. For God's sake, our place kicker had more tackles than you. Like it's truly embarrassing. You're supposed to be our guy, and he's coming back from his injury. There's a whole bunch of things. If anything else, that should open up. If they're triple teaming him, that should open up more guys to get some pressures or at least a sack or something. And on top of it, one of the Packers' top offensive linemen, Zach Tom, went down middle of the game, only played about 30 snaps. And so, one of their best offensive linemen was not available, and we still weren't able to do anything about it. So super, super frustrating. I agree with you. I mean, like, first and foremost, it starts in the trenches. Offensive line was not good. Defensive line got no pressure. Because the defensive line got no pressure, guys like Terry and Arnold just got absolutely picked on. And we made Jordan Love look like prime Tom Brady. So all in all, the Lions lose 13-27.
Yeah, and I do want to say just on the Hutchinson tackles thing, I don't want to blow that out of proportion either. I feel like your defensive end, your first job is to get to the quarterback. Yes, I mean run support, it's obviously important, but I think as a whole the team was completely fine on run support. I'm just looking at Josh Jacobs' stats.
Yeah,
19 carries, 66 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. I mean, you take that every day and twice on Sunday. So I wasn't worried about the run defense. Wasn't really worried about Hutch's lack of production tackling wise, but I certainly was more worried about him not being able to beat that tackle and get to Love. Jordan Love, you said six hurries, 0 sacks from the Lions D line there. I mean, Love 16 of 22. I'm sure he had more dropbacks than that. I think he had a couple carries as well. So you have a quarterback dropping back 25 plus times and you only get 6 hurries, 0 sacks. Like that's not enough. You're way too comfortable in the pocket if you're Jordan Love there. So that's really where I am raising the alarm.
Yeah. So let's this has been a lot of shit coming out of our mouths. It was a shit game. I get that. Let's kind of end before we jump into a quick break and then come back with our preview for next week's game. Somebody that you thought you liked, some performance, somebody that like stood out to you, something, and we can get to grid of the week, whether that that's going to be someone from this game or someone else in Detroit. But like, I feel like we got to end on like, what did you like about this game?
I think one big shout out is Sam Laporta.
Yes,
I thought that he was, especially in the second half, when the Lions were clawing for their life and trying to get back into the game. They tried to fight. They couldn't on Sunday, but I think that Sam Laporta came up with some really good yards. And again, probably take it with a grain of salt. I think that the Packers defense was okay, giving up some of those chunk plays, those seam plays for 10 yards because they don't want the Lions to take the top off and really get back into the game with one strike. So again, I'm not saying it was all Sam Laporta being awesome, but I did like what I saw from him, especially a couple. I think he had at least 2 third down conversions that were decently long. So that was good to see from a guy who struggled at times last year, injured a bit last year, took a step a step back into the probably passenger seat while other Lions offensive members were thriving, which is totally fine. But it was good to see him step up in a big way on Sunday.
Yeah, he was going to be exactly mine. Like if you had to find one thing to be happy about, like I said, it's a lot to dislike about this game. If we're going to be a little bit optimistic and find one thing, I did like that a lot. I thought Jared ended up finishing the game 31 for 39, 225 yards. We talked about it. He just averaged, his passing was 5.8 yards per pass. So like it wasn't, they were all pretty much checkdowns, but like he did have a pretty good completion day. QBR and rating wasn't as great, but like it wasn't terrible. And then, yeah, I agree. I think Sam Laporta was definitely something happy to take away from that. So let's cut to a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to jump into our Lions preview for this upcoming week. All right, we are back. So let's get into segment 2 of our Lions review preview with our preview of the upcoming game. Lions playing the Bears this Sunday, 1 o'clock. We have to start our preview, as we always do, with America's favorite game, Guess the Line. Kyle, I know you haven't seen this line. What do you think as the Bears come to Detroit? What do you think the line's going to be?
Well, first of all, I mean, talk about a loser leaves town game. Like these both teams just desperately need a win. The Bears looked
in
like
week 2.
shit on Monday Night Football. Sans probably their first drive, which was scripted. Yeah, they looked bad. Lions, obviously, we just broke them down. We don't need to throw more fuel in that fire there. But yeah, I think game at Ford Field. This is this is something where, like, if you're the Lions, you need to come out and you need to make a statement after getting your ass kicked and getting embarrassed at Lambeau. I think that the line, I could be completely off. I think it's got to be Lions -5.5. I still think this Lions team is night and day better than this Bears team, especially at home.
Yeah, so I've seen in 2 different places. I think one was from a day ago, and so I'm assuming that was before last night's game. I'm assuming the line has moved a little bit since the Bears played the Vikings last night. It originally opened at 4.5. It is now at Detroit -5.5. So you are
Nice.
dead on with that one. Like I said, I have a feeling maybe that line moved a little bit after that Bears Vikings game last night, but so it maybe opened at 4.5. Now is at 5.5. It's sad to say week 2 that it's a loser leaves town, but like I feel exactly like that. Like the panic mode will be in full gear if we lose this at home against the Bears. It's unfortunate and it's a little bit scary, especially with all the other added drama from this game that already is going to be built in with Ben Johnson and Antoine Randall L and all the other coaches that went over there, and just with Caleb Williams and everything. Like, it's already dramatic. We don't need to add in a loser leaves town kind of thing, but that's exactly what I feel like.
Dude, for sure. And I mean, we broke down the schedule multiple times throughout this show. But God forbid, if you lose this game, and then guess what? Guess what? Your next game is at Baltimore. So you play the Ravens at Baltimore.
Yeah, prime time.
Then you got the Browns, but then at the Bengals, at the Chiefs. So I mean, this is a gauntlet of a schedule. We've talked about this. You need to win the games where you are favored by 5.5 or more. Like, these are games that if you want to be successful and you want to make the playoffs, you absolutely need to win these games. So yes, we didn't want to overreact too much to week 1, but I will say that it will not be an overreaction if the Lions lose to the Bears at home. It will be the sky is falling down, because you got Ravens, Bengals, Chiefs, and then Bucks, throwing the Browns too. But those next games are very, very difficult. So this has got to be a must win.
Yeah, it has to be, especially the way the Bears collapsed against the Vikings last night as of recording. It has to be. So I think, just to break these down the same way we do our reviews, break it down on the offense, and then we'll go to the defensive side. I think the Bears defense, I mean, we talked about it. The Packers defense is one of the best defenses in the league. It's brutal that you had to start the season that way. I think the Bears defense is also good. I think, they made some moves when they traded for Montez Sweat a few years ago. I think they're battling some injuries right now. Jalen Johnson didn't play against the Vikings, but they're definitely a defense that is not as good as the Packers. Definitely better than a number of other teams in the league, but not as good. So I think as the offensive line, you have to, at the very least, clean up all the bullshit that you were dealing with at the Packers, with not hearing checkdowns and not hearing kill calls and stuff like that, and missing responsibilities and stuff. You had to, at the very least, clear up that. And then if you can do that, I think you can dominate a little bit more in the trenches from an offensive standpoint, just because this D line it's definitely not bad. They held at least Aaron Jones in check. I think Jordan Mason ran pretty well against them. So I think we'll have at least a little bit of success on the ground. But the offensive line has to assert their dominance at least a little bit on this Bears defensive line.
Yeah, and hey, assholes on the offensive line. I can, not to overreact, but they played like assholes on Sunday.
Yep.
Guess what? No excuses now, because that place, Ford Field, is going to be quiet as a church when the Lions have the ball. So yeah, there are no excuses for any kind of miscommunication, anything like that. So yeah, they got to step up in a big way.
Yeah, so just looking at their stats, so they had 3 sacks against the Vikings. So they had 3 sacks, obviously, on the year. One came from defensive tackle Dexter. One came from defensive end. And actually, I should say two came from defensive ends, different ones, though. So kind of just all across the board. I thought their linebacking core is pretty good with Tremaine Edmonds, Noah Sewell, who's, I believe, brothers to Panay, not cousins, but I believe brothers, had a great game against the Vikings the other day. So that'll be an interesting matchup between Panay and his younger brother on the linebacker core there. I think they had their one interception. The Bears had one interception on the year. Obviously, the Lions didn't get a takeaway, so we're still down on that. Correct me if I'm wrong, I swear the guy Nashawn Wright, who had the interception for the Bears, got hurt in the game against the Vikings, but I tried to look up the injury report. He was not on it, so I don't know if it's going to be a game time decision, but I know Jalen Johnson, again, they're one of their star cornerbacks. He's questionable. TJ Edwards, one of the linebackers, is also questionable. That's really essentially going to be it for them. So offensively, I just want to see honestly, I want to see more shots down the field. I want to see, it's very simple. Get the running game going, get the play action going, open up the top. That's really all you have to do in order to move the ball on this Chicago Bears team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a recipe. It's a recipe that has worked for 2+ years for the Lions. It all starts with play action. They love having Jared under center. They love running the ball. And that feeds into the play action, which will, of course, open up the big dogs. Amon-Ra, Laporta, Jameson Williams. I think it's a big game for J-Mo. I know just the Lions offense as a whole was pretty bad against the Packers, but J-Mo was quiet. I think he probably only had a couple catches, right? So this is, I mean, it's a get right game for everyone on that offense. But I'm especially looking at Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown, who both were pretty much non-factors against the Packers. We need big games out of them.
Yeah, so against the Packers, Jameson Williams had 1 carry for 3 yards, and he had 4 catches for 23 yards. So all in all, 5, touched the ball 5 times for about 25 yards, so nothing crazy. I mean, and honestly, everyone across the board, other than Sam Laporta, who we already brought up, had a great game, and I guess Amon-Ra went for 4 for 45. So I would expect all of them to kind of turn it around and be at least a little bit better. If we're going to have any sort of success this season, they're going to have to be better. So any more offensive thoughts going up against this Bears defense?
I think you probably already touched on it, but yeah, I think that the Bears are they are who they are. I think they're decent but not great. And yeah, we got to see something. We got to see something from Johnny Morton. We got to see. I mean, I'm not even at this point. I'm not even looking for extravagant trick plays, anything like that, razzle dazzle. I need the Lions to get back to their bread and butter. So again, we talked about it already, but it starts in the trenches. I need to see Gibbs and Montgomery, at least 4 yards to carry. Hopefully, a lot more than that. But and explosive plays. We didn't see. I mean, we didn't see a single explosive play from the Lions' run game against the Packers, and that's just inexcusable. So I know it's going to happen, but yeah, you got to unleash Gibbs. You got to give him some running room, and yeah, I think we're going to see some explosive plays.
Yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot more about Johnny Morton in this game and this offense in this game, just because it's going to be either confirming what we saw last week and just being like, okay, he really is just kind of a conservative play caller, does a lot of checkdowns, whether it was Bo Nix last year, Jared Goff this year, whatever it may be. He comes out this game and has kind of the same thing. I think like we said, the Bears still have a good defense, but I think that just more kind of says like, okay, that's just kind of what this offense is going to be. We need to maybe rethink the offense as a whole, or he's going to come out in like you just mentioned, kind of open it up, get the run game going, be able to take the top off, and it's going to be like, okay, the Packers defense is that good, and we were able to get to work against the Bears. So it is all going to start on that side, because I think. I before we jump over to the defensive side, I think the tone's gonna be set on the offensive side, especially after the absolute fucking egg they laid last week. Tone's gonna be set on the offense.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, just one more thing. If that's true, and if the Lions do turn into just check down merchants, and that's their offense, I'm gonna be calling for Johnny Morton's head by like week 5, because I mean you don't have a talented wide receiver room like that. You don't accumulate all this talent and all this speed. In the receiver room, you don't have a guy like Gibbs just to then just check the ball down and play, just pussyfoot around. Like, I will be calling for his head. Just want to put that out there right now. This offense can be so much more than that, and we know it can because we've seen it. We've seen it for 2+ years. So yeah, just wanted to put that in the ether.
Yeah, it kind of was a shitty position that Johnny Morton was put in, because if he succeeds, everyone's like, yeah, what a great team they had. It's all the good players. Ben Johnson really wasn't that great, whatever. If he doesn't succeed, Johnny Morton's definitely going to be the first one to go if this goes to shit. So I'm with you. I'm right there with you. Like, you have to show me something. I mean, for God's sake, he was one of the ones who installed the offense 3 or 4 years ago when Ben Johnson first was put in charge, and him, Dan Campbell, and Ben Johnson all installed the offense together. So I was kind of surprised to be that much deviated from what it was. So he's got to come out this week and show us that was truly just the Packers defense.
There's a lot of pressure on him, but also when you inherit a cupboard this full with all this talent, granted, some changes to the offensive line, but overall, I mean, can you imagine being a new offensive coordinator and then just inheriting a literal Ferrari in your garage? I mean, yes, there's pressure on you, but for good reason, buddy. You have one of the best scenarios that you could possibly walk into. If you're shit, it's because you're shit. It's not these players. We know these players can be very, very good, especially if the play caller's right. So, yeah, Johnny Morton, again, I don't want to put like too much on just one game, but if this continues, yeah, we will be calling for your head because, we know this offense can be so much more.
Yeah, pressure is a privilege. And don't forget that, Johnny Morgan,
Yes.
if you're watching. Okay, so let's go over to the defensive side. For me, the defensive side, like just watching the Bears last night, it was a tale of two halves. So it's kind of hard to understand what this Bears offense is going to be as we kind of go up against them. I thought it was kind of interesting that like all throughout Ben Johnson's tenure with Detroit, he had great games, starting the game scripts. And then after he got past those first few drives, he starts to collapse a little bit. The third quarter, if you look back at last year, Lions' third quarter was almost historically bad, and it's exactly what happened to the Chicago Bears last week against the Vikings. So it will be really interesting to see if he's able to buck that trend against us. But for me, one thing that I really was not concerned with, but one thing I'm really going to be watching is I thought Caleb Williams did a great job when the pocket collapsed. I think he was only sacked twice, so it was he was sacked at a historic rate the year before. This Bears offensive line was rebuilt this past offseason. He still was sacked twice. When the pocket was collapsing, he did a fantastic job getting outside the pocket and scrambling, and he is actually a lot faster than you think. So that's one thing that the Lions have historically struggled with, mobile quarterbacks. Lamar torches us, Josh Allen torched us. Like, it's notoriously really bad. I'm going to be watching for that contain. I'm going to be making sure that if we do get any sort of pressure, which the Lions players probably don't really know what that means, but if we do get pressure, you cannot let Caleb Williams get to the outside and scramble for a first down. That's going to kill us. When we get the pressure, we need to get home. So that's going to be my main thing, is just making sure that we're getting at least a little bit of pressure, because what we had last week was embarrassing. And then when we do get that pressure, don't let Caleb Williams sneak out. Our edge players, Hutch and Davenport, need to stay home, contain, push everything back to the inside. And the linebackers, I wouldn't be surprised if we have some sort of spy, Anzalone just kind of watching Caleb, because he looked fantastic scrambling last night against the Vikings.
Yeah, he's quick, and I think we saw it. We saw it from him in college quite a bit, and then not so much his rookie season. Of course, you mentioned it, but the team was so shit, offensive line was shit. So, and I think you don't want to just you want to develop a pocket passer more than just a guy who's just scrambling for his life, right? And then obviously those scrambles can come later, but I was very impressed by Caleb Williams in that sense. Yeah, I think he rushed for about 60 yards, had a touchdown on the ground as well. The game was kind of out of reach at that point, but they still technically still had a chance. So yeah, I totally agree. Got to keep him in the pocket. I did think, especially in the second half, he did kind of turn into a pumpkin. He was rushing throws. He was missing wide open guys. I don't think that's going to continue. I think that was maybe a bit of first game of the season, first game of your second year, that you're probably still going to miss some of those throws. But yeah, I'm thinking about the DJ Moore like walk-in touchdown where he was completely looking to the flat for way too long. Granted, that might have been his first read, and maybe he just didn't get his progression, up to that second, third read, whatever it was. But I don't know how you miss a guy that's that wide open. And if you're DJ Moore, like, I think it was just a tough game. Like, you were open, you weren't getting hit, and when you did get the ball, you were getting obliterated by like hospital passes. So felt bad for DJ Moore. But yeah, Caleb, I think that, I don't know, the jury is still out on Caleb if he's a good quarterback or not. I think that he still shows signs of being good. But in that second half, he was awful. And he didn't really show me anything in that second half for me to be like shivering in my boots or scared. I think we will be able to get pressure on him. And yeah, I just don't think he's there yet. So hopefully I don't eat my words, but certainly not scaring me at all.
As someone who had the Vikings defense playing you, who had DJ Moore, I was watching every time that DJ Moore was open and he was missing him and just thanking the Lord. I agree with you. I don't think he misses those. Like, I thought the Vikings at the end of the game probably should have lost that just because the receivers were getting open. It was just Caleb wasn't able to get, and they were having great pressure up the middle. So like, it was hard for Caleb to get there so quickly. They were really putting a beat down on him. At the same time, they were, like you mentioned, just crunching DJ Moore. So like, the Lions secondary can't let that happen again, get that open, because I agree with you. I don't think he misses those in back-to-back weeks. And if he's getting the scrambling going and we have to kind of worry about him moving outside the pocket, then it's going to be trouble on our secondary. So I think our secondary has to be better than the Vikings secondary was, because I agree with you. The receivers got open, and they, at least for half the game, they got everything they wanted. In the second half of the game, the receivers still were there. They just weren't able to get the ball over to him. So yeah, I agree. I think we got to contain him, and I think we got to get to we got to basically hold our own in the secondary, and the linebackers just need to do their best to keep Caleb inside the pocket. But you want to move to what is actually people on TikTok and Twitter are loving our new segment Between the Lions. You want to get to your the matchup that you're going to be watching next week against the Bears?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go between the lines. So for me, it's not necessarily just one matchup, but I think, and we talked about it a lot, but we need to see a lot more out of this offensive line. So yeah, a new offensive line unit. We talked about it. There's been a lot of changes. Three new positions technically at the Lions offensive line. And I got to see something. I mean, are they cheeks now? Can we run the ball? Like these are questions that I don't want to be asking. I'm kind of asking a bit facetiously. I know that the Lions will be able to run the ball, but they didn't show me anything to prove that to me against the Packers. And in fact, I don't want to harp on them too much, but they were making just horrendous mistakes that you see maybe like a freshman football team make. So yes, I need to see so much more out of them. The Lions offensive line versus the Bears defensive front. That's really what I'm going to be looking at the most on Sunday, because if the Lions continue to struggle up front and we can't run the ball, I think that you're going to see struggles from this team. I mean, this team, the identity is we are going to run the ball. There's a reason why they have, invested very high draft capital in Gibbs. They went and got Montgomery. They paid Montgomery, so they're spending quite a bit of cap on these guys. You have a pretty good deal on Gibbs right now, obviously rookie contract, but as far as draft capital, they've invested heavily, and that's because they want to run the ball. I need to see more out of this Detroit Lions offensive line unit, and I'm very excited to see it on Sunday. I think they can put it all together.
Yeah, I think, like, to put it shortly, I agree. I think that's going to be pretty much the most important matchup that's going to be there, because it truly is as simple as offensive line wins at the point of attack. We win this game, I think. I think it's simply that. I mean, we just mentioned, like, the tone's going to be set on the offensive side. You do that in the trenches, you win this game. I think that's truly going to be the matchup that is the most important. My in between the lines, I'm going to go with just kind of a one-on-one, and I'm actually going to say I kind of just did talk about it for a second. I might, as I continue talking about this, I might be a little more concerned about this than most, but I'm going to say Alex Anzalone versus Caleb Williams in getting outside the pocket. Like, I mean, maybe I'm just kind of taking the recency bias and watching him run for the touchdown and for everything that he was doing last night, and it's just concerning me, getting flashbacks, like I mentioned, with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen getting outside the pocket. And I remember last year saying, like, at this point, don't even blitz. Like every time we blitz, he's just running outside the pocket and getting a first down. So I'm going to say my kind of matchup that I'm watching for the most this Sunday at 1:00 is going to be Alex Anzalone versus Caleb Williams. Specifically, if Anzo is going to be kind of the spy and just make sure he stays home. And Anzo's a great guy, a great linebacker, going sideline to sideline, chasing them down and making sure that they don't get past the line of scrimmage, and he uses the sideline to his advantage. So I think that's going to be my matchup that I'm watching for the most. Last week, he finished with 4 total tackles, 2 solo tackles. I'm going to say he has 7 tackles next week. He's going to almost pace the team, and I think he's going to come out swinging and really do a good number on Caleb Williams, limiting Caleb's rushing yards on Sunday.
I like that. I like that a lot. I mean, if you're looking Anzalone versus Williams, I like Alex in that matchup.
Yep.
Like I just do. I mean, this is literally just your veteran presence, one of your captains, versus a second year guy who has struggled at times. So definitely like Anzalone in that matchup. And yeah, I mean, just one more. If I could just do a bonus between the Lions,
yep.
It's got to be the Lions secondary. Specifically, I'm looking at Kirby Joseph, and I'm looking at him to somehow fool Caleb Williams and get an interception. I think we saw it a ton. I think Kirby led the league in interceptions last year, right? Maybe the last 2 seasons. So yeah, we know he can do it. And yeah, I like Kirby one interception.
I didn't even hear Kirby's name called once last Sunday. He had 1 total tackle, which was a solo tackle. You got to be better. You just got paid, my man. You got to be better. So I like that as well as a bonus in between the lines. Before we go on to the rest of Detroit, we got torched for this last week, which means we got to do it again this week. Score predictions.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, damn. TikTok is just destroying us, man. I don't know if I can keep doing this with these posts, man. These they're not even fans. They're haters, and the haters are really getting to me. But I am gonna say, yeah, Lions bounce back. They roll. I like the offense to get going. I think Lions 31, Bears 24.
Okay, yeah. So that truly is offense getting going. I'm going to say I think the Lions win as well. Again, we got toasted last week. I'm going to stick to our guns, say the Lions win. I don't think the offense gets going that much, just because I have a little bit more respect for the Lions, or for the Bears defense, excuse me. I think it's going to be Lions 24, Bears 14. I think it's going to be a 10 point win, a little bit closer. I think we're going to be able to do a little bit, contain the Bears offense a little bit, but then the Chicago defense is going to do. And I think there's still going to be some question marks about this offense coming into next week, but it'll be enough to get the job done. So go ahead,
Nice.
Bears fans, tear us apart like the Packers fans did, for God's sake. Okay, so that is our review and our preview. Let's get to some else around Detroit. Just have a few things for our other teams here real quick. We don't really even have to really dive into this any further. Malik Beasley has moved back to Detroit. We talked about him last week, or I guess it now would be a few weeks ago, how he was cleared from the FBI investigation. He has been talking about it all season, that he feels confident. He was been practicing all off season at his alma mater, Florida State. He's been basically in great spirits. He now was cleared, and he has moved back to his apartment here in Detroit. It kind of was a weird story that people were reporting on, that he got evicted, and which is a weird thing to have to be reporting on, because he owed a couple tens of thousands in rent and stuff. He was able to all pay that back, apparently, and has moved back into Detroit. And he is, quote, close to making his decision on where he'll be playing this upcoming season. Again, I still hope and think it could be in Detroit for a 1 year, kind of scrape up the dollars and figure out how much we can get him, and then kind of make a new deal next year. But hopefully we will have some good news relating to Malik Beasley in the next 2 weeks or so. I mean, we're getting pretty close to preseason. It's about middle of October that the Pistons season really gets going. So hopefully we can get this deal kind of figured out, or at least know where Malik Beasley is going to be playing.
Yeah, I mean, I think whoever you sign, I mean, they got to do it like now, like yesterday, right? Like,
Yep.
I mean, we're already in September. I mean, I think at some point you gotta pick a team and sign. So yeah, what I love for him to be in Detroit, obviously, I mean, he's our guy. Do I think it's gonna happen? Probably not. I think he's probably gonna go elsewhere. He can get more money, especially having fumbled the bag and seemingly not even his fault. Like it was just, the FBI completely causing him to fumble the bag, but he did lose out on a lot of money, so I wouldn't blame him at all for wanting to get as much money as he possibly can, even though it's way less than he would have gotten without this, wild goose chase. But I see him signing with a team like maybe Minnesota, who could pay him more. So sucks, but I think that's probably what's going to happen.
Yep, I've seen Minnesota. I've seen Indianapolis, who have obviously some 3-point production to replace when Miles Turner left. So I've seen a few different teams. I just need him to be here in Detroit. I can't take him leaving. But yeah, nothing else to report there. Like I said, in about a month, the Pistons season will really start getting underway, so we'll have some more stuff to talk about then. Let's move over to the Tigers, because as I mentioned to kind of start the show, the magic number is, I believe, now at 11. If it's at 10 at this point, forgive us. We were looking up trying to figure out what it is right before this. Other Tigers didn't play yesterday as a recording, but they obviously I think they actually just started their game against the Yankees, and other teams are playing as well. So at the moment, the magic number is 11 to clinch the playoffs. And this is all coming after losing a home series against the White Sox, which is downright embarrassing, just not quite as embarrassing as the pantsing that happened to the Lions. But the White Sox, while they are since the All-Star break, they've been a better team. They still are the White Sox. They still are barreling towards 100 losses this season. And to lose a home series when it actually really matters is really, honestly, just embarrassing for this Tigers team. I've talked about it ad nauseum on how the numbers, the deeper numbers, show something concerning with this team. But I mean, we've lost 9 of 14 and are just 36-36 in our last 72, which is not October baseball production. So I'm concerned. I've been concerned.
Yeah, for sure, and especially because like they're still like trying to pace for best record in the American League, which is huge, right? I think it's just the playoff format. They keep on changing it. They changed it like probably 3 years ago, whatever. But
Yeah.
it's one team for each conference that gets the bye, right? Like so that having the best record in the American League is gigantic for getting that first round bye. And because we know, I mean, baseball playoffs are a crapshoot. Like any team can beat any other team. So if you have a bye, you don't have to play that first series. Like that's just one less series that you have to lose. So yeah, it's huge. And I think as we're recording right now, I think they're tied for first in the American League. I think they have the exact same record as Toronto right now. So, yeah, I mean these are just winnable games that they're losing. They need to get it together if they want to keep pace for best record in the American League. So yeah, we'll see. We'll keep you guys updated there. But at the very least, magic number is dwindling. I think at this point, again, don't want to jinx it, but the Central is looking good for the Tigers' perspective, just because every other team sucks. So yeah, I think we'll be good there. But my mind is really looking at best record in the AL and having that 1 seed in the playoffs.
Yeah, so we have the 3-game series against New York. Then we play Miami, Cleveland, the Braves, Cleveland, and then finish the season at Boston. So that'll be a ton of fun. Finishing at Boston, like you mentioned, probably battling it out with the Blue Jays for the best record in the AL. Not looking forward to that. I mean, you did have Parker Meadows come back from injury. He hit a home run the other night, which is a great thing to see. Parker was one of the main reasons we were able to make that push last year. If you remember back, a little over a year ago, he hit that grand slam in the bottom of the ninth, or the top of the ninth against the Padres that really jump started that playoff push. So like having Parker Meadows back healthy and actually being productive is extremely important. So good sign there that he was able to hit a home run. You hope that maybe Matt Vierling can come back from injury. It sounds like he's kind of on his pace to make it back for the playoffs. But then when he does come back, you hope that he is, the highest WAR position player that we had, similar to last year. So you hope that he can kind of put it back together. But everyone's slumping right now, and let's just hope they kind of get it out of the way. Unfortunately, they are currently losing to the New York Yankees 1-0, so not a great start there. But yeah, magic number is dwindling nonetheless.
Yeah, and I will say I did misspoke just a little bit. So the top 2 teams in the American League and the top 2 in the National League both get byes. So it's not the end of the world if they don't finish with the number 1 record, the number 1, number 2 seed. As long as they keep pace and outpace. I think it's the Astros who are the 3 seed right now. So yeah, I'd be fine with either of those 1 or 2 seeds, but I definitely don't want them to dip any further. You definitely don't want to play in that wild card weekend.
Yeah, 100%, especially like I just mentioned with hoping that some guys come back from injury. You had Cal Finnegan, who I literally just gave Grid of the Week to for being an insane closer and giving Scott Harris credit. He went down with an oblique strain. So like now you definitely need that buy there. So yeah, we definitely need to come away with that. So we'll keep a ticker on the magic number as the season comes to an end. But let's wrap up the show with some Grit of the Week. Do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'll kick us off. My Grit of the Week is the Lions PR team, actually. So not sure if you've seen this, but there was an elementary school in Miami who wrote letters to all of their favorite NFL teams. And also shout out my friend Caitlin who sent me this TikTok because I didn't see it until today. But I think before the season, every kid reached out to their favorite team, sent them letters, and the Lions were the first team to respond to this particular class and sent them a care package, pretty sweet care package with jerseys. They had like signed footballs in there. I think there was a Jared Goff signed picture frame, a lot of other really cool goodies like pom-poms, everything that like a fourth grade class would love. And the kids were just like ecstatic. Like the girl who actually sent the letter, she got to open up the box, and then she was giving all the gifts to all of her classmates. So I thought that was awesome. Huge win for the Lions PR team. I feel like our PR team is really good about doing shit like that. That was a cool little feel-good TikTok that I saw this morning. So, again, shout out to Caitlin for sending it to me, and shout out to the Lions PR team. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, you and the Lions PR team have a little love affair. I mean, and they do great work. I agree with you. They put out great films. They put out great clips. Shout out to them for doing this. Young kids, fans of the Detroit Lions. Like we have all the adults who have seen shitty teams from the Lions. These kids have no experience knowing the same old Lions. So let's get them on their side. That's a great story. I'm really happy with that. It's very wholesome. My Grit of the Week was planning on being the complete opposite, very not wholesome. I was actually on track, and coming into this recording, I was actually going to do a first ever and give out no Grit of the Week to anyone. I think the way that the Tigers lost to the home series to the White Sox was terrible. I don't think anyone deserved it there. I thought the way the Lions played, not a single person deserved it there. I thought better about it. Still was going a little back and forth after that wholesome Grit of the Week you just gave out. I can't do that. So I am going to give my Grit of the Week to Isaac Tesla, the rookie wide receiver for the Lions. Scored his first.
We had to talk about it. I can't believe we didn't talk about it.
Well, I purposely
deserves
didn't,
his flowers
because I figured you maybe were going to go there with your Grit of the Week. I didn't see the TikTok that you mentioned, so I figured you were going to go there with him with the Grit of the Week. So I'm glad that you didn't, so at least one of us can. I definitely avoided talking about it, so we can talk about it here. Isaac Tesla, rookie phenom from this past preseason. Everyone loves him. He had hit just one catch, and it was for 13 yards. It was just an insane touchdown. The first touchdown of his career.
First catch of his career.
First catch of his career, yeah. And insane. I will put at least a picture right here. And so you can see, I mean, they had to go back and review it to make sure he caught it. Just an insane catch. Now it was pretty much garbage time. That was kind of at the point where it's like that was our one red zone opportunity that we did end up scoring on, and I definitely felt like the Packers had checked out at that point, and we're already looking to the next week. But neither here nor there. He had an absolutely great play. Shout out to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who as soon as it was being reviewed and it was potentially an actual touchdown, he ran out there and tracked that ball down. And so just in the off chance that it actually was confirmed to be a touchdown, Isaac would then be able to keep his first touchdown ball. It obviously was ruled a touchdown after review. So shout out Amon-Ra, who went out and tracked the ball down and was able to get that to Isaac to, put it on his mantle for his first touchdown of his NFL career. But the thing about him, I feel like we didn't get much from him in general from this game, other than that catch. Dan Campbell after the game said that he actually was on a snap limitation because he had been battling some illnesses over the week. He was not 100% healthy, so they said that he was on a snap limitation. He said this upcoming week he will be ramped up and be a full go. Easily, nice. Probably going to be our wide receiver 3 next week. So shout out to Isaac getting your first touchdown in spectacular fashion.
Yeah, good for the kid. I mean, it was disgusting. It was such a sick catch. Obviously, do I wish that it would have mattered? Yes, because I was already just, fuming and pouting at that point and looking up like, oh, did he catch that? Like, it was still sick, don't get me wrong, and I'm really happy for Isaac, but I wish I could have enjoyed it just a little bit more. I digress, though. It was awesome, and yeah, he'll remember that for the rest of his life. So yeah, that poster is going to go down in infamy just because of how sick the catch is. I saw some people that were comparing it to the OBJ catch. I didn't think it was that good, but I did think it was good. So, yeah, shout out Isaac Tesla.
Yeah, immediately your first thought goes to the OBJ one. The only difference is that I think OBJ went back with his and then ended up coming down and still just holding it on one hand. Isaac ended up, as he was coming down, I think he ended up, kind of containing it with 2. That's the only difference. But still, nonetheless, it was insane. I agree with you. I was like sitting there like so mad and pouting and being like, damn it, that's so cool, but I'm so mad right now. I was very conflicted, but it was super sick. So shout out to Isaac. Hopefully it's just a sign of more to come, that he is truly our wide receiver 3 and continue to do just insane catches like that. All right, that is our show. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. You can find Kyle and I both on Twitter at Kyle_Marino and myself at Dutton_Tyler. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram or on TikTok at Gridiron Report. On Twitter at Gridiron Report 1, or you can watch us on YouTube at Gridiron Report. Please be nice to us with our score predictions. It takes a lot for us to go out on a limb and predict those, so please be nice. We just started our other series reviewing wings in the Metro Detroit area. We had our first wing review this past week. So go to our TikTok. You guys can watch that as we kind of go through Metro Detroit area. You guys sent us a giant list of places, so we have a number of different places we have to try. So we'll continue to do those on a weekly basis. Finally, you can join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the podcast. That number is 313-0679. As we're going through this week by week breakdown, call in, give us what you guys thought was a great matchup, what you guys want us to do better in each week, us being the Lions, and be a part of that conversation there. If you like the show, finally, please take a moment to rate it 5 stars and leave us a nice little review saying so. Thank y'all for listening.
Thanks, y'all. Restore the roar, hopefully.
Yeah. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retired. Gridiron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thunder and loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report, where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow. Make the fandom a vow. Make the fandom a vow.